On the serene banks of the Raritan Bay, just south of New York Harbor, sits one of the oldest houses on the Jersey Shore. With its roots dating as far back as 1663, this historic landmark has withstood its share of history, and, if the legends are true, may have played a valuable role for the Patriots during the Revolutionary War. The legends and mysteries only start there though, as the house has garnered the reputation for being one of the most haunted places on the eastern seaboard. Although currently named the Seabrook Wilson House, this building is more widely known to locals as the Spy House. By the days of the Revolutionary War, the house became a tavern and inn that would play host to many guests ranging from colonists to British soldiers. Many believe that the colonists would spy on the naval operations of the British in New York Harbor, which could be easily monitored from the house. Another legend says the widow Seabrook, who ran the tavern, would listen to British military plans from many hidden passages throughout the house. Then, after gaining the British intelligence, she would swiftly relay their secrets to the Patriots. Once the British realized the spying, attempts to burn the house were made, but none would be successful. The Spy House was originally built as a cabin in 1663 by Thomas Whitlock. However, the home would become the residence of the Seabrook family. Additions were made throughout the years, and in 1855, the house became home to a preacher named William Wilson. He lived there with his wife, Mary Seabrook, until the 1890s. It wasn't until the 1960s that efforts were made to preserve the house, and in 1974, it was officially given historic status and placed on the National Register of Historic Places. The legends and stories of the house's past and ghostly activity began to swirl when it became a museum that would pay tribute to the history and culture of the Bayshore community. Some reports have documented the number of spirits that reside in the house as high as 23. These alleged hauntings have occurred not only inside the house, but on the grounds as well. Legends of ghost pirates, phantom British troops, and apparitions of playful children dressed in 19th century era clothing are just a few of the house's supposed spirit inhabitants. Jane Doherty was a guide for the ghost tours of the Spy House. Throughout her time as tour guide, she has heard several claims from visitors about supernatural activity, as well as having her own strange experiences in the house.
What draws people to this house? I think basically in the beginning, just the fact that it's the Spy House. That's intriguing enough because it's history having to do with actual spying going on during the Revolutionary War. And then also the history of the pirates in the area that used to come to these waters and actually also come here. So it was not just a tavern, but it was an inn, and at one time it also was a bordello. So it has a unique kind of history. It is the oldest structure along the Jersey Shore. So it is the oldest house, and I think that is too. And of course, the ghosts, the many ghosts that exist here, because it is a place that people have experiences, and that is what makes it come alive, and people want to visit it because it is filled with so much history, so many ghosts, and so many opportunities of having a ghost experience. Gertrude Neidlinger was the person who started this museum with her brother. At the time when it was going to be raised, she went around and fought to have it saved and actually rented it and made it into a museum. Otherwise, this lovely structure would have been torn down many years ago, and we would not have preserved the history of the place. It was the love of her life,
She put it together over the years, and anybody who ever came to the museum would certainly remember Gertrude, the lovely person that she was that made it all happen.
They used to have seances over there. Miss Nylinger was a part of them until she passed. I used to give tours at the Spy House when I was younger. I used to help Miss Nylinger out. I haven't been in the house since they took all the museum artifacts out of it. But personally, I think she's kind of, her spirit's over there too. Even though she didn't grow up there, but she loved that place. It was her life for many, 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 many years. She really, you know, she was a big part of that place over there.
Okay, in this room, as you come in the door, the most activity occurred in that area there that I'll be going to in a minute. Right here were desks that the curators to sit at, and there was not much activity here.
But as you went into this area, you would have activity. What it was infamous for is there used to be a potbelly stove over there, and Thomas Whitlock, that's who we felt it was, one of the original owners of the house, you would hear him clanging on the potbelly stove at times. Tom was notorious for going home with people. He absolutely loved people coming into his home. And what would happen is I would warn people not to invite him home, because if you do, he will.
There was a time when I was here, and I was actually on the phone with my grandmother, and my mom had called to see when I was going to come home. So I was on one phone, my grandmother had the other phone on, and there were only 2 phones in the house. And all of a sudden, this man voice interrupted our conversation. And we didn't know who it was. We thought maybe we got mixed lines with the neighbor, so we said, "Who are you? You know, what's going on?" And the man said his name was Tom, and that he lived across the street. Well, we knew there was no Tom here, there was no Tom there, there was no Toms around. And he was saying that he was very adamant that he lived across the street, and, you know, he could see our house, and then he told us that he had died across the street. So now we're saying, okay, so now we must be talking to someone in the Spy House. The other thing I can distinctly remember was he didn't speak like we speak today. He spoke in an old English accent. So that was another thing that, you know, the spirits that were over there, that's from the time that they passed.
Okay, in this particular area here, what we have is about where I'm standing now, there would be a man that would come out of the men's room wearing a black cloth, a cape, and he would just walk through. Sometimes they would see him walk right through the wall. This happened on a number of occasions, and people would also see him outside. It is possible that this also was Thomas Whitlock.